What's up, everybody? Here at the show, the best part of the show, there's cool products, and that's what SHOT Show's about, but there's cool people. And you guys have seen Mike Doyle here on the channel before. He is the co-host of Tactical Tangents, which is one of my favorite podcasts. And I want to talk to Mike a little bit about what the heart is there of Tactical Tangents and invite you to listen in on what they do.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
So how many years have you been doing Tactical Tangents?
We started in 2017, so this is our 6th, 7th year.
7th year, man. That you're old.
Yeah,
I just want you to know that.
That turns out, yeah, that checks.
So tell us what was the genesis? What made you decide I need to start a podcast?
So Ferguson happened, and then after Ferguson, hi Neil. After Ferguson happened, the climate of law enforcement training shifted quite a bit.
Well, yeah.
And agencies were really out to protect themselves, protect the organization, which is reasonable and makes a lot of sense.
You got to protect the organization, but when your mission becomes, let's watch out for liability.
Stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble.
Yeah, and so what you saw was a lot of micromanaging, a lot of checkbox training, and cops are already limited on training time, right? Limited on hours, limited on all of that. And so what I saw was a lot of shift of we were taking all the limited training hours that we had and wasting it on PowerPoint presentations that didn't really get us a lot, right? We weren't giving insight.
They got the bean counters and the lawyers what they wanted.
Sure, well they could say, well, we've addressed this, right? But the problem is when you talk about addressing some of those things, right? I can't teach, we use de-escalation, right? A lot of that is communication skills and things, but it's also, there's a confidence and proficiency component to that of, like, do I feel like I have to use force right now, or can I keep my cool and try to mitigate that?
If I am a real badass and I know if you and I get in, now I'm not saying him, he'd kick my butt, but like if I know if we get in a fist fight, I can kick your ass, well then I can choose, hey man, it's cool, let's be cool.
Or if a guy's standing over there with a knife and I know like, all right, we're at about 12 yards, I've got this, I've got that, like we're good. Like,
we're good.
I got this in the bag, right? Like I know, like we have time to talk, we have time to communicate.
Yes.
And you don't learn that in a PowerPoint, right? Because there's a self-preservation component, right? You learn that in practice. You learn that with skills and proficiency and in doing it, right? And making those decisions. So anyway, there was a lot of things that I was seeing, it was troubling, and I would take ideas to training people and at work, and some of it was well received and some of it wasn't. We actually ended up making a lot of good changes, and we accomplished a lot of training. We've talked about that on the podcast. One of the guests that we've had on a bunch of times was in charge of training back then, and we were able to make a shift, and that was cool. But it was the spark that was like, I need to take all these frustrations and challenges and turn it into something positive and start teaching the things that we don't have time to teach in the academy.
Right.
And so the podcast was sort of born. It was about teaching professional development stuff, after actions, case studies. It's not intended necessarily to be entertaining. We try to keep it light and casual.
I mean, they won't tune in if it's not going to entertain.
Right. But it's supposed to teach. It's supposed to teach stuff, and we didn't want to limit it to just cops. We want it to be relevant to concealed carry, public safety in general. So we have a lot of firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, corrections, military.
Second responders, as we joke.
Yeah, my co-host. Nothing but love for my
nothing but love.
Nothing but buddies. But my co-host Jim is a military pilot, and so he brings in not only the military side of stuff, but we draw a lot of parallels between just aviation in general, which I know you could speak to, right?
Yeah, Jim likes to pat me on the head in my Cessna 172 and go, "Oh, you're so cute, buddy. Keep going."
Hashtag not a gunship, but but anyway, we're able to tie in that military.
It could be a gunship, okay? Well, every time I'm in it, it's a gunship.
Obviously.
There are guns in it.
Hanging out the window with your HK. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
But so we wanted to keep it relevant for everyone. So there's some aviators that listen, there's some military folks that listen, concealed carry crowds that are, we try to keep it applicable. We really like the cross-domain stuff. What can I take from aviation and apply to law enforcement?
Well, that's a huge thing for me.
Yeah, we use that all the time. Aviate, navigate, communicate, right? Applies to cops. The radio.
Remember, cops, get off the radio.
Yeah, push to talk, not to think.
Not to think.
Say what you need to say. Don't have a dialogue in your head about it.
Only get on the radio when you have a pressing need that someone else can address.
Right. And so those are the kinds of topics. It's a lot of the more nuanced. We talk about the tactical stuff. We have tactical backgrounds, but it's more of a head fake for what do I really need to teach? It's the soft skills, right? Communication, leadership, teamwork, decision making, decisiveness, those sorts of things.
Nice. And it's why I listen. So on all the podcasting platforms, you need to find tactical tangents. And of course, I know your experience, not only as a patrol cop, but in the tactical world, in the SWAT world, and the K-9 world.
SWAT, K-9, yep.
Yeah.
And training
dude,
stuff.
You want to talk about badass K-9? SWAT K-9 is a badass K-9. And we recently had a couple of K-9 incidents on the channel that showed up. And guys, understand, when I go, how much do I know about K-9 ops? About this much. So when I see that stuff going on, guess what I do? I text Mike and I go, hey bro, I'm gonna send you this video, watch it when you give me a second and let me know what your thoughts.
I'm pretty sure one of my department's shootings involving a K-9 was on the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. When the guy pointed the gun at the dog and then turned the gun on the cops and they filled him in. And everybody said, the funny part on that one is I got a bunch of comments that, well, wait a minute, dog is property, why would you shoot him for pointing a gun at the dog? It wasn't because he was pointing a gun at the dog, it was because he was pointing a gun at the cops. And listen, when the cops say, when a minivan, so they, tactical minivan, right? And like 9 dudes in full battle rattle with police come, on there, and they start pointing guns at you and say freeze, when you pull a gun on those guys, you're probably going to get shot.
Life's about choices. The other thing, and a lot of people did say that he was pointing the gun at the dog and you can't shoot somebody in defense of the dog, and that's true.
That's true.
Right? But what they also fail to understand a lot of times is that for a gun to go from here to here, there's not enough time for me to react effectively to that, right? And so what the dog affords is it gives us that window to make those decisions to keep ourselves safe, right?
Because that dog was chewing on him.
Right.
And the gun comes out in his hand and then he addresses it towards the dog because that's the thing that's chewing on me instead of pointing it at the cop.
Right. And it gives us that window to manage that problem, right? But the fact of the matter is you still had a guy who knew the police were looking for him, who was confronted by the police, who sent a dog,
I believe,
and pulled a gun out.
Bank robbery suspect. So they had a warrant on the guy for like bank robbery, I think. Armed robbery at the very least.
Aggravated assault.
Yeah.
There might have been a robbery thing. I can't remember exactly. I was on a different op. We had two going at the same time. But
obviously, he was on his way to Bible study. He was, obviously
getting his life on track.
Getting his life on track. Just come from an AA meeting and all that. No, none of that stuff. So,
I'm empathetic to the experience that people have, but at the end of the day, you pull a gun out in front of the cops.
Like you said, life's about choices.
Exactly.
And that one, his bad choices earned him his bad outcomes. But you know what? Mike is a guy too that, again, as an experienced SWAT K-9 handler, I'll send him stuff and he's like, God, what is that dog doing? What is that handler doing?
It's hard. It's harder than it seems, for sure.
Right. It's hard work, and at the same time, what I find with good cops, great cops, is they're harder on other cops than anybody I know.
100%. We're a tough crowd, no doubt.
But so listen, I love Mike and Jim in particular. Again, Jim is, flying a gunship for a living. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he flies different things, but
all kinds of different stuff.
I can't put his face on the internet, put it that way.
Right.
That's why he's not here on camera.
Yeah, and so a wealth of experience, good information. I believe it's entertaining and always good discussion. The one that you recently had on resilience, I thought was really remarkably good.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And so
we've been taking the wellness stuff pretty seriously. In my circle at work professionally. It's a big deal. We had a string of suicides in my department, so it's one of those things that we definitely need to be paying attention to.
We recently put, so if you haven't downloaded the Asp Unlimited app, right, on the light tier, so it's a free tier, you just got to sign up, right? So you just give me your email address and you're in. Erica Gaines from TAC Mobility did a 4-hour class for cops on wellness and on the mind-body connection, and gave them some real easy stretches they could do in uniform. And listen, you could be standing, Josh, and pre-op or post-op, whatever, hanging. Here's some stretches to connect your body and your mind, and allowed us to film it and put it out for everybody for free. She asked if we would put it out for free, so go and watch that.
Man, I need to check that out. I didn't know that was there.
It was really, truly fantastic stuff, and Erica's amazing.
I knew the app was there, just not the TAC Mobility.
Well, and the funny part is that, and I talked with Erica about this, is that when I first met her, she's one of my wife's friends. Remember, my wife is a crunchy, granola-eating, pot-smoking witch hippie, right? And
Laura is amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing, and I love
she's a
her
nice lady.
like a fat kid loves cake. But and Erica, when I first met her, this was right, Black Lives Matter beginning, and she was kind of like, her whole thing was, how do we keep cops from shooting unarmed black men? And I'm like, okay, so there's a little bit more to it than that. And so then she dove in, and she realized, oh my God, these poor men and women and the job that they have, and how can they not take this trauma to the next call, and then those traumas home to their spouse, and then all this stuff goes. And so now she's an absolute junkie going on ride-alongs and trying to help cops with wellness so that they survive. And I love that she had a statistic in there that for 2021, I believe there were 160 line of duty deaths in law enforcement, and something like 3 times that number of suicides.
Yeah, so it's crazy. And I know that's not necessarily unique to law enforcement.
No.
Everyone experiences that, and it's all over the place, but it's still
Live show, friends.
it's still a concern for sure.
Yeah, and it's something that in every realm, right? So suicide's near and dear to my heart, and I don't care what profession you are, we want to prevent that, right? So wellness is for everyone.
Absolutely.
But go check out Tactical Tangents. Dude, always great catching up with you, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.